I believe you missed the part where I was reading so hard that I was like toppling. I was like, I don't think it likes me reading this, or I ran out of time where it errored because I closed my laptop the one time. Anyway, she's stepping into the wardrobe and she's noticing that it's a double tiered wardrobe that actually gets wider as you get into it. And she's like brushing her face on all the fur because she's a little loosey about shit, right? She took a step further in, then two or three steps, always expecting to feel the woodworking against the tips of her fingers, but she could not feel it. This must simply be an enormous wardrobe, thought Lucy, going further and pushing the soft folds of the coats aside, making room for her. Then she noticed it had something crunching under her feet. I wonder if it's more mothballs, she thought, stooping down to feel it with her hand, but instead feeling the hard, smooth wood floor of the wardrobe, she felt something soft and powdery, extremely cold. This is very queer, she said, and went on, stepping two further. Next month, she found that she was rubbing against her face, hands no longer soft fur, but something hard and rough to even prickly. Why is it just the branches of the trees? Exclaimed Lucy, and then she saw that there was a light ahead of her, not a few inches away where the back of the wardrobe ought to have been, a long way off, something cold and soft falling on her. A moment later, she found that she was standing in the middle of the wood at night time, snow underneath her feet and snowflakes falling through the air. Lucy felt a little frightened, but she felt very inquisitive and excited as well. She looked back over her shoulder, and there, between the dark tree trunks, she could still feel the open doorway of the wardrobe and catch a glimpse of the empty room in which she had been set out. She had, of course, left the door open, but she knew that it was a very silly thing to shut oneself into a wardrobe. It seemed to be daylight there. I can always get back if anything goes wrong, thought Lucy. She began to walk forward, crunch, crunch, over the snow and through the woods towards another light. About 10 minutes to reach found um, was a lamp post. She stood looking at it, wondering why there was a lamp post in the middle of the woods, wondering what to do next. She heard a pitter patter of the feet coming towards her. As soon as she did, a very strange person stepped out from among the trees in the light of the lamp post. Only a little taller than Lucy herself, he had carried over his head an umbrella. White with snow from the waist up, upwards he was like a man, but the legs he slant like a goat. The hair on them was glossy black, instead of his feet and goat hooves. He also had a tail. Lucy did not notice this at first because he neatly caught it up over his arm and held the umbrella, so as to keep him from trailing in the snow. He had a red woolen muffler round like his neck, and his skin was rather reddish too. He had a strange, pleasant face and a short, pointed beard, curly hair. Over the hair there stuck two horns, one on each side on his forehead, one on his hands, and he said, held the umbrella in another arm and carried several brown paper parcels. One of the parcels of snow looked just like as if he had been doing Christmas shopping. He was a fawn, and he saw Lucy and just gave a big start of surprise and dropped all of his parcels. Goodness gracious me! Exclaimed the fawn. Kid genius. Bum, 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 bum. This is like, well, if you're not easily like tempted to lose your mind, you can read children's books. That's always what's been said. England says it. Yeah, Canada says it because England always said it. Like, it's just stupid. She's a little Lucy, and her name is actually Lucy. But it takes you to this place where hobbits. I'm a giant. What am I? What am I, like Dumbledore's friend? Well, anyway. I'm actually a giant. I can uncompress my spine. That's why it's curved, kind of funny, and I always crack it. What Lucy found there. Good evening, said Lucy, but the fawn was so busy picking up his parcels at first that he did not reply. When it finished, he made her a little bow. You want to be a giant? Who wouldn't? I mean, I never get laid, so I don't care. Good evening, said the fawn. Excuse me, I don't want to be inquisitive, but should I be right there thinking that you are the daughter of Eve? My name's Lucy, she said, not quite understanding him. But you are, forgive me, you are, and they call a girl, said the fawn. Of course I'm a girl, said Lucy. You are in fact a human? Of course I'm a human, said Lucy, still a little puzzled. To be sure, said the fawn, how stupid of me. But I've never been a son of an Adam or a daughter of Eve before. I'm delighted, is to say. And then he stopped, as if he had been going to say something, but did not intend it. It had not intended that he remembered it in time. Delighted, delighted, and it went well. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tumnus. I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy. As I may, I asked Lucy, daughter Eve, said Mr. Tumnus. How have you come into Narnia? Narnia? What's that? Said Lucy. This is the land of Narnia, the fawn, where we are now, and all lies between the lamp-post and the great castle of Caraparval and the eastern sea. And you have come so far the wild woods of the west. I, I, I got through the wardrobe in the spare room, said Lucy. Ah, Mr. Tumnus, rather melancholy voice. If only I had worked harder at geography when I was a little fawn, wouldn't have doubted about all these strange countries. It's too late now, but they aren't countries at all, said Lucy, almost laughing. Only wet back there, at least. I'm not sure. It is summer there. Meanwhile, said Mr. Tumnus, it is winter in Narnia. It has been for so long. We shall both catch a cold if we stand here talking in the snow. Daughter of Eve in the far land of Spare where eternal summer reigns around the bright city in the dark robe. How would you be if you came and had tea with me? Thank you very much, Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy. But I'm wondering whether I'm oughting to get back. Just around the corner, said the fawn, and I'll be in a roaring fire. I'll be a roaring fire and toast, sardines and cake. Well, that's very kind of you, said Lucy, but I shall not stay long. If you will take my arm, daughter Eve, said Mr. Thomas, I shall be an old umbrella over. I shall hold an umbrella over us. That's the way. Now off we go. And Lucy found herself walking through the wood arm in the arm of the strange creature as if they had been known one another all their lives. They had not gone far before they came to the place of the ground that was rough, and there were rocks all around, and hills up and little hills down. And at the bottom of the small valley, Mr. Thomas turned suddenly aside and said, "Go walk into straight into that unusually large rock." But at the last moment, Lucy found him leading her into the entrance of a cave. As soon as they were inside, she found herself blinking in the light of the wood fire. Then Mr. Thomas stooped, took the flaming piece of wood out of the fire, a little neat pair of tongs, and a little lit a lamp. Now shan't we be long, he said, and immediately put on the kettle. Got hair in my mouth. Lucy thought she had never been in a nicer place. It was a little dry, clean cave of reddish stone with a carpet on the floor, and two little chairs, one for me, one for a friend, said Mr. Tumnus, and a table and dresser and a mantelpiece over the fire, and above the picture, old fawn with a gray beard. In the corner there was a door which Lucy thought must lead to Mr. Tumnus's room, and in the one wall a shelf full of books. Lucy looked at the wall. He was setting out the tea things. They had titles of the Life of the Letters, Asilius, or the Nymphs and the Way of Men, Monks and the Gamekeepers, Study of Popular Legends, and the Man of the Myth. Now the daughter of Eve, said the fawn. It is really was a wonderful tea. There was a nice brown egg, lightly boiled for each one of them, and the sardines on toast, and then butter toast, and then toast with honey, and a sugar topped cake. So that's the picture from the old book. I'm walking to the cave. And then Lucy got tired of eating a lot. Eating, the fawn began to talk. He had a wonderful tale to tell, the life of the forest. He told about midnight dances and how the nymphs who lived in the wells of the dryads, who lived in the trees, came out to dance with the fawns. About long hunting parties after the milk white stag, who could give you wishes if you caught him. About feasting and treasure seeking with all the wild red dwarfs in the mines of the caverns, far beneath the forest floor, and then the summer when the woods were green and the old Silius on the fat donkey would come visit them, and sometimes Bacchus himself. And then the streams would run with the wine instead of the water, and the whole forest would give itself a jollification for weeks on end. Not that it isn't winter now. He had a gloom. He added gloomily, then a cheer to himself, and out from the case of dresser, a strange little flute that looked like it was made out of straw began to play. The tune that played the music, Lucy wanted to cry, and laugh, and dance more, and sleep at the same time. It must have been hours when he shook herself and said, "Oh, Mr. Thomas, I'm so sorry if it stopped you. I do love the tune, but really I must go home. I only meant to stay for a few minutes." But no good now, the fawn, laying down the flute and shaking his head in very sorrowingly. No good, said Lucy, question mark, jumping up and feeling rather frightened. What do you mean? I've got to go home at once. The others will be wondering what happened to me. But a moment later, she asked, Mr. Thomas, whatever is the matter? For the fawn's brown eyes were filled with tears and began trickling down his cheeks, and soon they were running off his nose, and at last he covered his face and hands and began to howl. Mr. Thomas, said Lucy, in great distress. Don't, what's the matter? Aren't you well? Dear Thomas, don't tell me what is wrong. But the fawn continued sobbing as if his heart break, and even when Lucy went over and put his arms around him and lent him over a handkerchief, he did not stop. So that's the cave. A little hard to see. I like that spirit for memories of a time. um, where was I? Mr. Thomas bawled, Lucy in his ear, shaking him. Do stop at once. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. A great fawn like you. What on earth are you crying about? Oh, sobbed Mr. Thomas. I'm crying because I'm such a bad fawn. I don't think you're a bad fawn at all, said Lucy. I think you're a good fawn. You're a nice fawn. Ever since I met you. Oh, you wouldn't understand if you knew, replied Mr. Thomas in his sobs. No, I'm a bad fawn. I don't suppose there was ever a worse fawn from the beginning of the world. What have you done? Asked Lucy. Well, father now, said Mr. Thomas. That's his picture over the mantelpiece. He would never have done things like this. Thing like what? Said Lucy. Like what I have done, said the fawn, taking the service under the White Witch. That's what I am. I'm going to pay the White Witch. White Witch? Who is she? Why? It is. She is got all Narnia under her thumb. It's making makes its way into winter, always winter, and never Christmas. Think of what? How awful, said Lucy. Why does it pay you for? That's the worst of it, said Mr. Thomas with a deep groan. They kidnapper for her. That is what I am. Look at my daughter of Eve. Would you believe that I'm some sort of farm with a poor innocent child in the wood? One that had never done any harm, and pretend to be friendly with it, and invite him home in the cave, and the sake of lulling it asleep and handling it of the White Witch. No, said Lucy. I'm sure you wouldn't have done anything of the sort. But I have, said the fawn. That's why I don't like it. It's so tough. He's talking about the time of Christ, and you're supposed to be like in spirit reading it, but I lose my spirit so much. Well, what life do I have? I'm supposed to play sports. Look at these biceps. Anyway, I used to read these all the time when I played sports because I was happier. I had so many books, and they always got rid of them after I read them. Ruined my life. Should have walls of books. I'm kidding. But I did have lots of books. Read lots. Anyway, a river of wine. Wine's not bad, but it should be made in a barrel, put in a bottle. Because if you had a river of wine and you're not drinking water for that long, like why is that so great? It's hot, you're drinking wine. Like what are you, some kind of like lung immunity person? It is a child's book, I know, for children. Coral, you're a kid. And then it's winter all the time, and there's a white witch is their like big bad leader, and she gives them Turkish delight, and they get to sit back and relax and read and have snowball fights. Like, what if they took the Antarctic and made it that not anymore? Because of some white angel witch. An angel. I feel like I'm scaring the world. No, Mr. Thomas, what are you doing? Why are you bad? That too. Every time. I break. I almost rotated myself. Fall. I was reading so hard. And I looked and the camera wasn't even on. Okay. I need a something. No, Mr. Thomas. Donald Trump wants this. I think that somebody was reading my shit and brought my storage back, and that's cool. If you read it, cool. But there's like barely any stains on it. Everything. The box is taped back together. I think. Barely fits the books. Yeah, it's properly taped though. I did that. Yeah. I love books growing up. I can't play sports. You don't get any of me. Too big for the soccer fields in the city and all this stuff. I could lower my nicotine with that 8% because 8% equals diluting. What did you do, Mr. Thomas? Oh, fucking funny. Put him up. Hitting a baseball bat. Yeah. Someone once told this story to the cops. I got Mason and blind. Did I ever play that one out for you? I'm in the hunting magazines, everything, like in all in and around after that. I'm fucking violent, surely temperamental, in the sense of like waking up, grouchy, tired, exhausted. Yeah, I thought it was an evil text too. In a silver chair. Yeah, when I was reading it, um, younger. And still, even it just brings down the right path of Joseph Smith. Yeah, it's a good book. It's for good kids, good children. It's supposed to help children learn if you read it to them. It's really fucking good. I just pooped. Gas note. Mark has a fetish with these bottles. Got in a Christmas hamper. No, he says he really likes me, but I think he gave it up. Yeah. I didn't believe him that much. Thought it was a fetish. Hey, might want to leave it plugged in though. Oh, jeez. I was reading my book, The Old Lion Witch and Wardrobe Set.
What's it called?
It is cool.
What's it called?
Lion Witch and Wardrobe Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh, cool.
You ever seen it? There's movies, probably on
I think
Prime.
I've seen like one or two of the movies.
Yeah.
So, can't fall asleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's almost midnight already.
Pardon?
It's almost midnight already.
I don't know. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have coffee?
Yeah.
Already?
My dad.
What's that?
Oh, it's good. But I'm exhausted. I just
You had a
lay
good,
down and moan.
you had a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for the thoughts.
I think I got a good start at cleaning my room. I can do that. I'm a giant elf. First one ever to exist. And that's how Coral makes it. Break your spine. Fuck. You can't even tell you that you're an elf. You're an elf. I just have crippled ears sewn back together the best they can get. Honesty, truth. They did the same plastic surgeries my ears that my grandpa Shepherd had. It's my ears. It's plastic surgery. and all these lines on my forehead because I almost got a hole in my head, but they managed to, the bruising, they managed to lesion it properly so it didn't decay my skull. But I win like 16 fights, all of a sudden there's a boom, just get hit. But cheap fuckers. I'm so tired. Like, how fucking gay is that? You're allowed to talk that way, Coral. Native languages are chat languages. Like, if you were to do a spider graph, it'd be chat languages, and you'd have like Black Crow. I can't even think of all the tribes. Cree, Mohawk, and then you have the languages that they speak and the family, the healthy family heritage below. Yeah. Spider graph, chat languages. It's Latin English. It's a name call. Yeah. I was concussed. Like, ow, fuck. Oh, poor you. Yeah, right. I'm still tough though. I don't hear voices in my head that aren't me just thinking. I actually think. You actually think. So you probably don't think it's that. A lot of people don't even think. They just talk. That's schizoaffective. People who hear figure out math completely wrong their entire lives and ends up they're just trying to commit crimes and pull heists and stuff. You'll figure this out maybe when you're older or somebody will explain it to you. Schizophrenic. And they have like Tourette's, like really bad. You know? And it's all crime. Not good stuff. They don't have a god. They think they are the Dark Lord and that he has risen to the earth. And like, there's no actual evidence of this. Like, they're weaklings. They suck. And um, Tourette's, that one's sad. It means they weren't allowed to talk their entire life and screamed at their entire life until they start biting their shoulder. And lots of them break their neck and go bipolar so they'll die. Break the neck like bad. And there's a lot. Like what grandma, great grandma has is she's dying, but she was so well kept by the people she loves and the people she remembers her last day before she completely lost her mind, stopped recognizing people, that she's trying to stay alive in there. And her intelligence, which is like talking in high matter, like the book Infinity, the man who knew infinity, like understanding like massive formulas and stuff, is keeping her alive, which makes her like really beautiful. And then she cries, and when she cries, so painful because her body is giving up, and her legs and body, that there's a struggle in the brain. And when she cries, like, it's hard for me to cry because I've been crying for so long. Like, really, you stopped a lot of the crying, Coral, when you were born. It hurts so bad that she'll go fucking evil and try to stab you or something. Like a good person, like a nurse. Good people, right? That you can generally most likely trust. Yeah. Alzheimer's. They broke her spine in 4 places and did things that you can't do after you break your spine in 4 places. And they get old really fast, or they were old, and they start shaking all the time. Like they shake like this, and they talk exactly with you, but then all of a sudden they turn around and almost try to turn their head off because they confuse their spine by doing something we're supposed to do on a broken spine. And they go two-faced and double-sided, and they just eat you alive against everybody who's good. And they're like, but I was good. And then they'll like fart, or if that's their only weapon. If everyone's leaving them alone, they'll just like fucking fart. And they're really mean, like they'll fucking kill you. And you do that when you read, especially when you get older. Bounce. You know, if you're reading too much for too long, you'll topple and you'll pass out. You can hit your head really hard. Fucking disable yourself. It's okay. I just don't have a diagnosis. You're really fucking lucky. That was my leg. Yeah. I have a hip replacement that's growing and healing. And it's a lot of blood being used, and I could have got a diagnosis, but nobody fucking told me I had to raise you all on my own and exhaust myself beyond. I just get to go to the gym and try to be pretty. Yeah, and gratitude. You have gratitude. You understand gratitude. You read gratitude in the Bible. You did the formula. You learn the formula. You learn the numbers in increments so you can do it in your head at any moment. You'll be fine. Because you have gratitude for yourself, so you won't fuck a dirty whore with chlamydia or something.